Namaste, everyone. I'm Orgho from Moromia Spiritual Society. Welcome to our English platform, Moromia English. As announced earlier, starting from today, we are going to meet at every alternate Wednesday. Today is our sixth live session, and the name of our today's episode is Himalaya, the Cradle of Human Civilization. Now, before I proceed into this program, I would like to say a few words. Moromia, as we know, is a very unique platform. Here, our respected and beloved Joydeep Maharaj responds to our all deepest queries. And then the seeker, the true seeker who needs an original path is provided. Here is awake and alive an ancient sanskar or parampara of our country, where the Guru shows the light of truth to the disciple. Like in the last session, when Maharaj was discussing about the science of Brahmacharya, the great transformation of our energy by which we can transform ourselves and make us a superhuman being almost and help us to reach the full potential of our lives. We all felt that everyone in this planet should listen to these discussions. And so it becomes our responsibility to share these sessions and welcome all those seekers who are in desperate search of truth but are unable to find that. We must become the bridge and connect these people to Maharaj. Now, without wasting any more time, I would like to welcome my fellow host, Devasisda, in the platform. So please, Devasisda.
Namaskar. Thank you, Orgo, for introducing uh, the way the Modomia is teaching the seekers their way of life. And I also welcome all the viewers of today's program. Today, we are going to have our sixth live program. Previously, we had different programs like uh, on meditation, on uh, historical fact like Jesus in India, we discussed. As Orko said, we discussed our beloved, our respected Joydeep Maharaj discussed on the science of Brahmacharya, on one of the important session it had. And we have a lot of questions after that, a follow-up we had. So without wasting any time, I welcome Joydeep Maharaj in this session.
Namaskar to all our viewers and
Namaskar,
listeners,
Maharaj.
and welcome to Devashish and Orgho to our next session or next episode of our program. Please continue.
Yes. Maharaj, previously in our last session, we had discussion on Brahmacharya, the non-science of Brahmacharya. We got two follow-up questions on that. Uh, Before going to the main topic today, if you kindly discuss these two queries, then they'll get benefited. The first one was asked by Ovilas Roy. He asked, Namaste Maharaj, I am a man in my early 30s. From my childhood, I have never been taught this science of Brahmacharya, and now it feels that as if I have destroyed and wasted myself in a very meaningless way. So, my question is it possible to start practicing this lifestyle and regenerate what has been lost over the years? Or will I be forever a half man due to the waste I have done and can never become a proper brahmachari? This was asked by Ovilas Roy.
Okay, thank you, Devashish. It's a very important question. I think many people who are of similar age, 20s and 30s, will be wondering about this topic, will need more clarification. Well, Obidlash Rai, the short answer at the beginning of your of our discussion is yes, it is possible. It is definitely possible You can start from today, from this moment, without regretting about the past, without any remorse, without any self pity, without thinking that so much has been wasted. I'm becoming a half man and my life is completely destroyed. I have no hope. No, there is hope. That is a short answer to your question. Second part of your answer is my answer is that you are not to be blamed entirely for the fact that you do not know about brahmacharya, and that probably now you are beginning to know about it because your parents did not tell you, your friends, your teachers, your relatives, your neighbors, nobody told you about this, and they are not even supposed to tell you because generally the world that we live in is flowing downstream. That is the mainstream. So people who have knowledge about this, they try to flow upstream. So so it is not your fault entirely, but I would say that partially it is your fault also, because from the name I can imagine that you are Indian and that you are probably Bengali, Rai title. So at one point of your time when you were young, I think you should have tried to connect yourself with your Bharatiya culture, with your Bharatiya history, with the life of Swami Vivekananda, Sri Aurobindo, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, all these stalwarts who were just our recent history, part of our recent history, not ancient history of sages. So if you had gone through their life and teachings, I think you would have got some idea about brahmacharya, about sadhana, about our philosophy, about our yog, pranayam, and all these things. And definitely, then you would have sought more personal answers from some mentor or from guru in these areas. You see, what I mean is that when we were students, for example, when we were in class 11, 12, or in the university, we had a lot of interest. Besides our studies and passing exams and getting a job and getting married, we had other interests like films, books, sports, philosophy, intellectual ideas, European, Indian, and we used to access them as per our taste and preferences. So it is quite natural for a student to sometimes uh, try and focus on other things of life besides their career and their selfish interests. You did not do that, apparently. That's why you don't know much about brahmacharya. Just that is so partially it is your fault, not entirely. That's my second point. Third point is, look, it is not a question of quantum. It is the potential that you have is infinite. It is not finite. What I mean is, suppose you imagine yourself to have 100% potential, and at age 30 or the early 30s, after having sort of spent an overindulgent life for last 17 years, you probably think that 30% of that potential is gone, only 70% is left. No, it does not work that way. That potential is like a huge, vast, limitless ocean. Even if you take away tanks and tanks of river water from that ocean, drums and tanks and tons of water, the ocean does not get reduced. It remains as vast and as beautiful and as great, as endless as it was. So it is not a question of quanta. What is it a question of? What is the difference when somebody starts practicing brahmacharya maybe at age 13, 14, and somebody who starts practicing in the early 30s is the fact that your body, your mind, your system has got used to some habits for years. And that habit has been to follow the laws of kind of an internal gravity, let it flow down from the causal to the subtle to the physical, and then release. You see? So now that the body has been used to this kind of a system for all these years, so it now becomes more difficult for someone to try and change that habit. Not impossible, but difficult. So that is my third point. So fourth point is, how do you start? I imagine that you're in your early 30s, so probably you are married, probably you have a girlfriend or a partner with whom you want to spend the rest of your life. If you are married, if you have a partner, then talk with her. Tell her, communicate all these ideas that you have now seem to realize. Tell her about a truly happy and a fruitful domestic life requires brahmacharya, requires channelization. Expose her to different speeches and lectures and writings of these great masters I mentioned: Swami Vivekananda, Gautam Buddha, Sri Aurobindo, Subhash Chandra Bose, and all these great saints. Expose her to these, make her also a student, a seeker of the realities of life. And then you start working on your lifestyle. Remember, you have used the word brahmachari in the last sentence, that it seems that you want to feel that you want to be a brahmachari. Well, that is not the point. Becoming a brahmachari is not the goal of your life. To fully realize your potential is the goal of your life, for which brahmacharya is essential. Try to understand that. Just I want to become a brahmachari doesn't mean anything. I want to realize myself. I want to realize the full potential that I've been born with. So tell yourself that. So if you have to give yourself a goal, if you have to give yourself a purpose, the purpose of life is to know who you are and to realize the potential that you have. See? And for that purpose, brahmacharya is a tool. It makes you a container, which I had explained in the previous episode. The container to contain the divine energy that will come as a grace when you are ready for it. See, that is why brahmacharya is required. My next point is, you start with lifestyle. You wake up early in the morning, wake up with the sun. As the sun rises, you also try to wake up at that time, take an early bath, do some yogasana, before that some exercises maybe, and do some pranayam, meditation. How? Go to someone, go to some yogacharya, find somebody who can teach you these things, and learn and start without reading, without trying to learn them from books or from the internet or from YouTube. Personal contact, personal communication is important. Eat that kind of food which is easily digestible. Don't go by general ideas and general prescriptions. Don't go by counting calories and pH levels and acidity and alkaline and all that stuff. Each person has a unique body. So try out between different things and see what suits your body more. Maybe if you eat lots of fruits, lots of light meals, vegetables, then it is good for your body. Maybe if you avoid chili stuff, fried stuff, junk food, fast food, meat, eggs, maybe that is good for your body. Follow that. Also remember that taste is important. I emphasize this very, very strongly. For a healthy body, for a body that wants to generate energy to do sadhana, taste is important. Constantly, by if you constantly try to kill the taste, then you develop some levels of dissatisfaction within yourself, which again can be the cause of future problems, diseases, mental agonies, and you won't be aware of the fact that it is all because of your diet. So try to find out, try to experiment, trial and error basis. without going by fixed prescriptions. 99% of the people will give you fixed prescriptions, even those who preach brahmacharya, even those who, there are monks who will give you fixed prescriptions that this you can't eat this, you can eat that, and all this. Do whatever you have to do according to your own system, and then keep yourself engaged in constant spiritual discourses, spiritual readings, spiritual films, spiritual documentaries, things that inspire you, things that keep you awakened to the realities of life, things that keep the fire of your search burning, so that it will not die out. For example, today we are having this conversation, you feel very inspired, and then after a couple of days, you see that the battery is getting down. See? And then again, you will start to lose energy because of that. So it's important. And energy is not only released through the sexual glands. Even when you get angry over trivial matters, you're losing energy. Even when you're talking too much, when you don't have to, you're losing energy. Even when you are listening a lot to gossip, you're losing energy. Even when we are greedy, you're losing energy. Even when you're comparing yourself to someone else and feeling a kind of inferiority complex, you're losing energy. So it is very important for you to focus and concentrate on your ultimate goal of life and keep all these things at bay. And remember, it's not going to be easy. And don't expect results within 7 days. It will take time because, as you have said, you're wasted. But I would say, yes, you're wasted a lot of energy, but everything is not lost. In fact, nothing is lost. If you're sincere, genuine, honest, and if you're really ready to work hard for what you believe in, for this life transformation that you want to work on, don't give up hope and make it a part of your family discourse. Even with your parents, with your wife, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Even if people make fun of you, they are making fun of you because they are ill informed. They don't understand. Because our mainstream education, our medical system have all sort of conspired to go against these ideas of life, to go against health, to go against restraint, sanyam, as we say in India. So the fact that they will try to make fun is natural, but try to convince them, expose them to really great minds who have talked about brahmacharya, and start working from today, from this moment. And don't expect immediate results. It's because attaining brahmacharya also depends on the grace of Divine Mother. So pray to the Divine Mother so that she gives you strength and she gives you the motivation, so that her energy, the great energy of Kali, the great energy of the Kundalini, gets channelized towards your upward realms of dimensions of existence. I hope, Avilash Roy, your query has been satisfactorily answered. Yes, now we come back to the Vashish. Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj. We are really inspired by it, and we also learned that there is ocean of opportunities before us. We have to exploit it, and the lifestyle is also very important to keep a brahmachari up. Uh, Another question or queries has come from Sabine. Uh, I think she asked that how to
No,
awaken.
she's a he. He.
Okay, okay, Maharaj. Actually, the name I didn't get actually whether he or she. I think it is related to Brahmacharya. He asks that how to awaken latent inner intelligence, how to create the basis for it to manifest, And again, he told that, I guess this is what I am wondering. So it may be related to brahmacharya. So we have taken it as a follow-up queries. So if you,
Yes, yes,
yeah,
because we did talk about latent intelligence in one of our previous episodes. So, in a way, yes, everything is related to brahmacharya. Any insight, any growth, spiritual growth, mental growth, growth of character, evolution, the internal evolution, which we can call involution, all these are related to brahmacharya, the channelization of our energy. Well, now to answer your question, short answer is start to look inwards. Start to look inwards to understand the latent energy that is inherent in you. For example, the body. Now, we understand the body from a kind of a biological point of view. We understand the body from all the information that we have got from outside. We know where the heart is, where the kidneys are, where the lungs are, how the blood flows, the nervous system, the reproductive system, and all these things, the hands and feet, and the eyes and the cornea, etc., etc. That is how we understand the body, through information, not by observation, not by observation of our own mechanics and understanding of the body. You see, I say the same thing for mainstream doctors and physicians who do not understand the subtle energies that work in the body. You see, that is why it is very difficult for mainstream doctors to understand the relationship between the mind and the body. And that is why also the doctors, they treat the body as an assembly of different parts, just like we assemble cars, just while we like we assemble mobile phones and laptops. They are not really an organic unity. We make it in the same way. They think that the human body is like that. The eyes are eyes, and the heart is the heart, and the blood is the blood, and the veins are the veins, without fully realizing the connections between each and every part of the body to the other part. All the other parts, every part of the body is connected to each other. And that is exactly how the universe is. Every part of the universe, every molecule of the universe is connected to each other, to everything else. It's very important to understand, and you will get this idea once you start looking inside your own body. For example, if you have a fever or a headache, now your body will tell you certain things at that moment. That when you say, I don't feel like talking, I want to lie down a bit, do that. What you are doing is actually following the instructions of your body. Or you tell people that I don't feel like eating today. I'm not hungry. I have this terrible headache. Okay, do that. Don't eat. Even if somebody tells, I think some food is good for you, this because it is empty stomach, that is why the headache is there. Don't listen, because your body is saying not to eat. And maybe after you have taken some rest, after you have fasted for a few hours, and then you see that the headache is disappeared, and you feel hungry, and you feel fresh. So that, in a very superficial level, is the latent intelligence of the body, which is much more intelligent than you are, which is much more intelligent than all these advisors are around you. You see? So when you look deeper inside your body is a wonderful place. It is a place full of mystery. It is a place which holds all the secrets of the universe. Imagine the systems that are working within the body, and we are not even aware of it. So that is what I mean, that observe. First, start to observe the body, then the mind, and then the seer of the mind and the body. That is the spiritual journey that our Guruji, Swami Paramananda, used to teach us. Read the language of the body, along with it, read the mind, and then know, not read anymore, because now there is no duality. Know the seer of the mind and body. That is the way to progress. And just to read, just to know, not to interfere. For example, not to interfere with the body, mindlessly giving it all the time medicines and therapies for curing. Have trust in the body, that the body knows how to cure itself. That is what I mean by latent intelligence of the body, which becomes also your intelligence when you are connected with it. So, without interfering in the processes of the body, because without interfering, you are breathing and you're not even aware of it all the time. You can't say that after 1 hour, I will stop breathing for 2 minutes. But if you're a great yogi, you will be able to do that. You will be able to decide not to breathe for intervals of times. So you see, become aware. That is the main thing. And number two is this awareness, this introspection, this inward looking is not only restricted to the time when you are doing meditation or time when you are doing, let's say, vipassana, or the time when you are alone with yourself. All the time, even you are, for example, you are a musician, even if when you are playing the music or you are singing songs, look inwards. Try to find that music from within yourself. Even when you are eating, even when you are laughing at the jokes of your friends, never deviate from looking inwards. Even when you are busy, even when you feel that you are tensed, when you are under pressure, you constantly make it a habit, make it a practice to look inwards. That is how slowly the latent awareness, the latent intelligence will be awakened. You see, we use the word latent energy for the Kundalini because when we try to find suitable English words for all these, let's say, Bharatiya terms, spiritual terms, yogic terms, tantric terms. Kundalini is a tantric term. It is, as you probably know, it is illustrated as a kind of a serpent energy that wakes up and that sort of starts to penetrate all the mystical points, the chakras, and travel towards the pineal. So it's very impossible. It's not easy for us to translate these expressions into English because English does not have, or the English or Britain or Anglo-Saxon, it does not have a kind of a philosophical background. That's why all these words and expressions, all this seeking is absent from that language. But we say latent energy as a kind of a poor substitute, which helps us to awaken this great inherent dormant latent intelligence. When that energy, latent energy, starts waking up and starts to penetrate each chakra, then miracles begin to happen inside yourself. Everything gets enhanced. The way you see things, what you see, the way you hear things, what you hear and listen, the way you talk, the way you work, your sexual activities, everything, all the sensual experience changes within you. Nothing changes around the world, but your experience starts changing dramatically when this energy wakes up. In your case, I would say that it has already woken up a bit. That's why you're interested in spirituality. Unless there is some kind of a movement in this latent energy, people will not be interested in true spirituality. People will be interested in well-being, will be interested in getting consolatory talks and lectures on how to deal with stress, how to deal with sleeplessness, how to deal with troubled relationships, how to survive in this corporate world, for all these things. But very few people, maybe less than 1%, are really interested in knowing, realizing the truth of life. And for that, even there, if there are some people who are interested, there are even fewer people who are willing to devote their life to it. So I feel that you have some amount of seeking within you. That's why you are asking these questions, and that's why you want to connect to us. So already that energy is being stimulated. The first symptoms of a stimulated kundalini that wants to wake up is spiritual queries. When that person starts to ask questions, the deeper questions, the basic questions about life, you see, that is waking up. Now, to the point of how, as I have said, start to look inwards. But as you know, that is not enough. You have to start doing sadhana also. And for doing sadhana, you have to meet spiritual sages, people who have been on this path for years, who have a lot of experience on this, so that you will come to know what is your sadhana, your particular sadhana. So that will also help you in accelerating this process of awakening. So I hope you have got your answer. So first, you start to look inwards. Even when you're now, for example, if you are present in this live discussion, you are now listening to these topics that we are discussing. While you are listening, probably you are trying to think also. Whatever you are doing, look at yourself. First, look at the body. Are you in a sitting position? Are you in a half lying down posture? I would suggest that when you listen to these kind of serious topics, sitting position is the best. Is your body upright? Are you busy with your phone doing other things while listening? Are you fidgeting? Look at it physically, and then also look at it internally. What's the response in my mind? What's happening inside my mind? What are the reactions to it? How am I breathing? Am I remembering the crust of the matter, or what is being said to me in response to my query? Start like this every moment. In the beginning, you might feel, oh my, this is quite difficult. No, it isn't. Once you practice, it becomes easy and it becomes very beautiful. It becomes like a process of discovery. So, okay, now next, so let's have the anchors back on the screen.
Thank you, Maharaj. So we got an idea that the aim of our life to know ourselves, and we have to look inside ourselves constantly, day and night, whatever we are doing. And sadhana is for all, and sadhana will help us to look into ourselves. So now I'll ask Argho to come.
Yes, Devasisda, thank you for bringing me. Before going to the next query, I would like to also say a few words. Maharaj told us wonderfully, discussed wonderfully the two queries that were left from the last session. For example, he told us the Guru Maharaj, Swami Paramananda's greatest of speeches, that read the language of our body, and then read the language of the mind, and then know the person who is inside, the seer behind this body and the mind. And also he told us to look inside all the time to awaken the latent energy that is inside us. And he also told us that this about the brahmacharya, about the science of brahmacharya, that it's not a matter of fact that it will happen in 7 days time. So it is a continuous practice session with us ourselves. Every day we need to be part of great people, great person, to go there, learn the lifestyle, the process of brahmacharya, and also to maintain the taste of our lifestyle, not only about food, but also everything that we do. Something should be very upward journey. It should be taking us towards an upward journey, and that's how we can maintain the transformation of energy. So yes, Maharaj just enlightened us wonderfully with these two discussions. Now I would like to say the third query, that is the main topic of our discussion today. That is by Antonello, and he says that I saw on a Moromia Facebook post in Bengali that the Himalaya is the brain of the world, but I couldn't grasp the meaning of the sentence. Could you please elaborate on this subject, Maharaj? This is a query from Antonello.
Yes. Thank you, Orgo. And thank you, Antonello, for the query. Well, it is, uh, we have changed the topic, not to the, we have not kept the brain, though the maybe in that Facebook post there was the mention of the word brain, but we have used another word, which is cradle. The Himalayas is a cradle of human civilization. Now, cradle, as you probably know, is like the swinging basket where we put a newborn child. So from the newborn stage of humanity, Himalaya is like a cradle. That is the meaning of this topic today. You said you could not grasp the essential substance of this question. It is not easy for us to grasp as well. Himalaya is an eternal mystery for us, even for Indians. It is very special, of course, and it is very difficult to explain why it is special. The only thing I can tell you is that when you come to India, go to some of these places in the Himalayas. Maybe you were watching the presentation at the beginning of the program, where you saw all these beautiful places, Kedarnath, you saw Kailash, and you saw all these other wonderful Himalayan sites. And you know probably that there is the Alps in Switzerland, which are also very beautiful. But there's a difference, and there's a lot of difference. And as I said, it is very difficult to explain the difference. But let me just share with you my thoughts instead of dealing with this as an answer. I would rather just share my thoughts with you. It seems quite now well known that the Indian civilization or the Bharatiya civilization is probably the oldest, if not one of the oldest civilizations of this planet. And it is also very probable that today, what we call the civilized world or the first world, for example, the European civilization or the American civilization, are greatly, if not entirely, indebted to the Bharatiya civilization and also to the parallels, the indigenous populations whom they conquered and decimated. Now, so whatever good there is, for example, you are an Italian, there's a lot of civilizational richness in Italy, Greece, and all these places before Christ. Let's say the time of Socrates, the time of Plato, Aristotle, when they tried out so many different things in philosophy, in art, in politics, in administration. All these words like autocracy, democracy, and all these words have these roots of the Greco-Roman roots before Christ. And that civilization was very directly connected with Indian civilization, very directly. As you, if you do some research on the great library of Alexandria, you will know, which has been destroyed, you will know exactly what I mean. So today, what we know as the human civilization has its roots in the Indian civilization. And the roots of Indian civilization is very much, I mean, I'm not talking about only survival, I'm not talking about existence, I'm not talking about when we were only tribes with no language and we were almost primitive and wild. I'm talking about when we were developing ourselves culturally. Then our civilization was basically, fundamentally, a civilization that tried to search for the truth of life, the truth of existence. And from there came everything. From there came philosophy, art, culture, literature, music, life, marriage, family, farming, industry, everything emanated from that search of trying to understand why humanity is and what is its relationship with the universe. And for that, Himalaya is a very important place, not the only place. If you travel across the subcontinent, you'll find many places which are steeped in ancient history. But Himalaya is special because it remains pristine, or pristine, some according to some, pure, unadulterated, unpolluted, timeless. So when you go to some of these places in the Himalayas, you feel that you could have traveled back 10,000 years ago. It had been exactly like this. So that pristine knowledge, that pristine vibration, that pristine atmosphere is still there. So all the people who are spiritually inclined have this dream of visiting the Himalayas. Somehow it seems that it holds the answers to all our questions, to all our life's queries. And somehow it seems it also holds all the questions that start. It's like the rivers that come down from the Himalayas, flow to the sea, vaporizes, forms clouds. Again, they sort of strike against the Himalayan walls, and again the water starts flowing down. It's a big, huge cycle that's going on. Questions start from there. People start to ask questions. Who am I? And people start to realize answers, not to get answers. Finally, we have to all realize our answers. We have to experience our answers. What we can do, or what mentors can do, what guides can do, is to lead you to the answers, lead you to your sadhana. But at the end of the day, it's your own experience, it's your own realization. So Himalaya seems to hold, is like a womb of this great whole mystery. Point number one. Point number two is the figure of Shiv, or Shiva in English. Shiva is, as you probably know, is an important god in Indian or Asian civilizations, but it's not like one of those gods. Shiva again is the crest of our civilization. In spite of the fact that we have great rishis and yogis, but Shiva's presence, or the figure of Shiva, dominates when we think about the Himalayas. Shiva stands for truth, wisdom, love, and renunciation. Is very important. Selflessness, renunciation. And it is from this concept of Shiva that we have got Yog, we have got Tantra, we have got medicines or medical science, we have got our cosmology, astronomy, astrology, our music, our arts, martial arts, you name it, everything. I mean, not it. You may not. You don't have to think of Shiva as being one person. Shiva as in a parampara, as in a tradition, as in a flow of knowledge, which is being passed down. And wherever you go in the Himalayas, there are stories of Shiva, and these stories are not merely stories. Each and every pilgrimage site is kind of an allegory of some incident of Shiva's life. So the whole Himalaya is like a supreme presence of Shiva in various moods. Somewhere he's like a boon giver, somewhere he's meditative, somewhere he's excited, somewhere he's calm, somewhere he's forgiving. All these different moods Shiva is in the different parts of the Himalayas. So the whole Himalaya is like a playground of Shiva. It's like a playground of this wisdom, of this love, of this supreme renunciation, and of this timelessness, this stillness, this eternal mystery that reckons us, that calls us, beckons us, and calls us to join and go back to who we are. That is point number two. Point number three is, of course, there are so many rishis and yogis, even today in the Himalayas. Even when you have, for example, one yogi, for example, if there is one great yogi who comes to your house and stays there for 1 month, the whole atmosphere of your house will change. Everything. You will see, you will understand it in your moods, in your friendship for each other, in relationships. You will see that everything has changed. Everything seems to have molded. His mere presence, even if he is not speaking, even if he is not doing satsang or giving lectures, the mere fact that he'd been present for only 1 month in your house leaves a lasting impression in that place, in your minds, in your memories. So now substitute that for this place like Himalaya, or these huge places like Himalayas, let's say. There are so many countries in the Himalayas. So, and there have been through the ages, thousands of years, so many great yogis, so many great rishis, so many sages, saints, pilgrims, devotees, so many, innumerable, thousands. And some of them had done sadhana for hundreds of years. Some of them have spent their whole life, many of them, without trying to catch the attention of people, without trying to come into the limelight. Very, very powerful yogis doing sadhana for the goodness, for the benefit of mankind, for the benefit of this planet, for the benefit of the universe. So that vibration, even if you do not meet one such single yogi, that vibration is always very much present and alive in that place. That's point number three. And point number four, which is probably the most mystifying of all, is the fact that there is this presence of Gyanganj in the Himalayas. You may have heard about Gyanganj. It has other words for other languages. Shangri-La, for example, another very common name, because it is revered by the Chinese, by the Tibetans, by Indians. It is found mentioned in our Hindu texts and scriptures, in the Buddhist texts, in the Jain texts, even among the Sikhs. It's a very, very special place. Now, what is Gyanganj? Gyanganj, for example, I'll try to explain with a kind of a joke, let's say. We think, or rather, there's a conspiracy theory, which some of us believe to be true, that there is a group of people who are trying to control the world. Everything, the politics, the media, the economy, and everything. There's a kind of a They are a kind of an invisible world order which they are trying to impose on the whole world. Now, beyond this invisible world order, there is another more invisible, more subtle, more causal world order which is responsible for everything that is happening on this planet, both at the micro level and at the macro level. This is in the Himalayas, but not physically, not the way you know it or I understand it, in a different way. It is there between the, let's say, between the fourth and the fifth dimension. Fourth dimension, as you know, is time or kal, and fifth dimension is mind or man. So it is not there physically. I mean, if you go there, if you somehow reach that place, you won't see anything. But if you are being sent there, or if you have been invited by some sages, senior sages of the Ganganj, then it will manifest in front of you once you are there. And you'll see it's a huge, huge place, working in different layers to control the powers that are of the planet. Today, our discussion is not merely on Ganganj, but just to be brief, what they do is, first, there is they call Surya Vigyan. Surya means sun. Vigyan means science. They use the power of the sun to make an impact on the physical attributes of our existence. The power of the sun directly. Everything is coming from the power of the sun. In fact, the whole planet and whatever is on the planet is from solar energy. We ourselves are products of solar energy. You see? That's why we need more of the sun in the body. You people or you Italians are always talking about, I have to be more in the sun. We have to lie down beside the sea, beside the ocean, and take the light of the sun, the heat of the sun. So you see, sun is very essential for the body, the most essential thing. Now, what the yogis and the rishis in the Ganganj they do is they use the sun energy directly without any intermediary. And for that, you have to be very evolved as a yogi to do that. Without any instruments, without any machines. They do it through their powers of concentration, through mantra, through sadhana, through breathing. They do it. In the same way, there is a moon energy, the moon, the science of the moon, the Chandra Vigyan, the lunar science. Lunar, the moon, as you know, is more connected to our emotions, to our creativity, to our arts and fine arts and everything. In the same way, they use the wind, all the five elements. Plus, they use other aspects of human energy, which are general. For example, love, which we are not aware of being present in the universe without living beings. We cannot think of the fact that the sun can also love, that the moon is also can be a product of love. We cannot think in these terms. That even the big mountain is like an epitome of love standing there. We cannot think in these terms. But the rishis do, because they have realized that the whole universe is a manifestation of love and of bliss. So they use all these energies to what? To do what? To control the goings on this planet, from the individual to the masses. Whatever is happening to an individual in his spiritual quest, in his attempt to meet his guru, to find his guru, that is being decided and determined by these sages, ageless sages. Some of these sages are maybe 3,000 years old, some of them are 4,000 years old, some are contemporaries of Sri Krishna, some are contemporaries of other great sages we have heard about only, we read about in the scriptures. There is the story of Babaji Maharaj, who has been living there for thousands of years and will continue to do so till the end of this cycle, till the end of this kalpa. And you don't have to believe all these stories. But the fact is, all these cultures that I told you know about this. And you also be aware of the fact that the Chinese and before the Americans and Europeans had tried desperately to find this place, because they had imagined that if they can capture this place, get hold of its mysteries, they will be able to control the world. That's why. They, even today, they all these satellites and these technologies they are trying to use to find out this place. But unless you sort of go beyond the fourth dimension, you will never be able to even recognize the fact that such a place exists, leave alone visiting that place. So whatever happens when we think of the world wars, when we think about the two atom bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, we think all these dreadful things, unspiritual things, ungodly things are happening. But you see, Sri Aurobindo had said that all these had been planned by the sages of the Himalayas for the eventual ultimate evolution of humankind. You see, the world wars, the Second World War was terrible, no doubt. But after that, we have had almost more than 70 years of relative peace, which is unprecedented in human history. And when there is peace, there is opportunity for humanity to grow spiritually, to grow in the sense of become more conscious and become more aware, become more developed in its humanity. So all these things, even the avatars who come down, for example, somebody like Gautam Buddha, somebody like Jesus, even somebody like Prophet Muhammad, or all these people, this important, not only avatars, important leaders who play a big part in determining the consciousness of this planet, are being driven by an unknown energy they're not even aware of, some of them. Even when we are talking about these great villains of our civilization, they are also not really doing it of their own free will. They are being determined and guided and coaxed by the energy who know how to manipulate the secret energies of the mind, the intelligence, the ego, and the five elements, energies of the five elements. They do it all for the evolution and the acceleration of this evolution of the humankind. So Gyanganj is another very important aspect of the Himalayas, which is not far from where Shiva's capital is. So we know all these places in the Himalayas, and we also know the fact that the Kailash, which is in modern day Tibet, is the main residing abode of Lord Shiva. Again, even for the most non-believer, the most skeptic, even if that person ever goes to Kailash, not the fact it will, I'm not suggesting that he will become a believer, no, but he will definitely realize that there are some forces in this place which are beyond me, that it is not just another place. It's just not another where tourists come and have their dinner and go away. This is a special place. They will realize. Even if you see the Mount Kailash, its peculiar shape, and around, if you compare it with the other peaks, is completely different from the other peaks. And its peculiar shape is somehow like a dome, which is apparently almost like a pyramid. And pyramid was a very familiar structure, a geometric structure of the ancient civilizations. Nowadays, now our scientists have no idea what these pyramids are. And pyramids are not only in Egypt. There are many, many cultures where there are pyramids. There you see the picture of the Mount Kailash. You see the triangular slope of the mountain, almost like some of the pyramids that are there in ancient cultures. That are in Mexico, in Indonesia, all these ancient, which had some ancient background. They have converted whole mountains into pyramids, into perfect pyramids, symmetrical pyramids. Definitely for some purpose, just not for design. Such as hard work, definitely for some energy. So number one, you will realize that the mere geography and the geometry of that place is different, as if it is something that has been put there from another place. Another important aspect of that is that nobody has ever been able to climb Mount Kailash. People have gone near. Nobody has ever been able to scale the heights. Mount Everest and many other mountains are much higher. But there is these special sacred mountains, specially associated with the name of Shiva, which nobody has successfully climbed ever. There's another one in Himachal Pradesh, which is called Mani Mahesh, which is called the second Kailash. Another very beautiful place. Very, very beautiful, wonderful place, sublime. The beauty is not something that you can say is colorful or fanciful. The beauty is sublime, is timeless. It doesn't really always make you feel small. It just makes you feel that you're not a human being who is living for 50 or 60 years. You are a life that has been there and will be there for thousands and thousands of years. That is what the impression that comes when you go to these places. And not only have never been climbed, never been scaled, it is also strictly forbidden in the scriptures. And all those who have tried to climb, they have either not come back or have been found dead. Number three, these are just little snippets that I'm giving you. It's impossible for me to cover everything about the Himalayas. This is trying to explain why it is the cradle of human civilization. I mean, I'm giving you, try to explaining to you or trying to show you all these mysteries, because in these mysteries there are answers. And we have to dig deep within ourselves to find these answers. And another important thing about Kailash, which everybody agrees, is you can have two reactions, physical reactions. One, if you're a yogi and you visit Kailash, within hours you will feel at an energy level that you are 20 years younger. At the other point, if you're a worldly person, within minutes you will feel that your hair and your nails are growing faster and you're aging faster than you normally do. It happens with everybody. You can cross check with anybody who has visited the Kailash. Even in a package tour with 50 people for a couple of days, just been there. You can ask them also. They have all had these similar experiences. So there are many theories around all these things. I don't want to get into them, but it is not something very surprising or shocking. Himalaya is full of these stories, full of these mysteries. I can tell you about our Guru, Swami Paramananda, who had traveled extensively in the Himalayas. One of the reasons why he traveled was he wanted to visit all the important places, all the temples, all the ashrams, all the mats, all the gurus, all the sadhus, to find out what each person or each community or each belief system talks about, articulates, lives. And he has some fascinating stories to tell us. He told us that as you know, probably, that for us, Indians and especially Bengalis, Sri Ramakrishna is a very, very special personality in our spiritual life. His life itself is like a miracle, without any glitz, without any glamour, without being a typical preacher. He's he's like the renaissance around which everything has developed and is still growing, is still expanding. The influence of Ramakrishna and the Ramakrishna movement. Guruji has told us that he had met saints, very old, very ancient, in whose heart there are maybe millions of Ramakrishnas playing around. So you can imagine the power or the manifestation of these great, very, very great yogis. He also had seen in one place the presence of many Sadgurus, one place in the Himalayas. As you know, Sadguru and Guru, these are two different words. The world is full of gurus, but you won't really find many Sadgurus. You will find, if you are really interested, if you are really keen for true knowledge, the pure path, there are many gurus, and even in the worldly sense, management gurus and digital gurus and currency gurus and economic gurus and all that. Forget about that. Even in the so-called religious and spiritual life, there are many gurus. These new age gurus, the secular gurus, very good. Some of them are great preachers and teachers who really inspire people and give them a direction, but they remain very carefully secular, trying to avoid any names of gods and goddesses and prophets and avatars and etc., so as to keep everybody happy. You see, so as to attract a wider market outside Christianity, outside Islam, outside Hindu, outside Buddhism, in order to capture the more cynical, the more materialistic market. There are these you know big, big explosion of these secular gurus and teachers and preachers. You will also see a few of them, but a Sadguru who doesn't care about pleasing people, who doesn't care about gaining popularity, who doesn't care about getting platforms. Now that is rare, but not inaccessible. So Guruji in one place in the Himalayas had seen a special place, 12 such Sadgurus in one place, in a very remote place. And they hide from people. And they loved Guruji a lot. They wanted him to stay with them. Guruji was very young at that time, almost a boy. Guruji did indeed stay with them. But when it was time to leave, he had asked these gurus that I want to ask a question. Yes, please do. And this is the way, this is a spiritual tradition that you first take permission. You just don't bomb somebody with questions. You first take a permission. Yes, please do. And then he said, you're all Sadgurus. And the world is full of fake gurus, these false gurus. Why don't you come down to the world? Why don't you help people directly? And they smiled. And they said, the sun is responsible for the life of this planet. In order to give more life, the sun does not need to come down. It is where it is, and it is from there we are getting all the light and the warmth and the energy. You will understand what I mean as you grow up and you have your own experiences. So he did. He just gave us two examples. So when there are these people who are desperately searching for a guru, for some guide, for some mentor, sincerely, somehow or the other, He travels and meets this person and that person, and somehow connects and comes to the guru, or comes to the person who would eventually be his rightful guru. Number one. Number two, sometimes our Guruji had to give a lot of diksha, a lot of initiation to maybe hundreds of people. And some of these people were not really spiritual people, very worldly people. So he used to feel very tired and fatigued, and his whole energy used to go away, because by giving diksha, he was really transferring energy. So he used to feel that he would not be able to even wake up. He would not be able to even get up from the bed. You see? But within 2 or 3 days, 72 hours, he used to feel that the whole body is getting renewed, re energized. He realized it is coming from these special 12 Sadgurus with whom he had communicated. So, all this information is very important to understand that Himalayas seem to have everything, all the mysteries that human civilization had, and especially because our civilization is basically an introspective and introverted, a kind of a philosophical civilization, where materialism is not the first thing that we look for. That's why our language and culture, even our classical songs and dance and music, everything, first you dedicate that to Shiva. First you dedicate, only refers to the whole universe, and then you start your work. Even the simplest task of entering a new house. So that is why, and also for various other reasons, many there can be hundreds and hundreds of reasons. Himalaya is something that has to be experienced by oneself, and everyone will have his own experience. One should not, sort of try and influence you. You see, many people of the world, they want to come to India and to the Himalayas. They go to Haridwar, they go to Rishikesh. Some they go for these yoga lessons to become yoga teachers, but not all. Some really come not only to get familiar with the culture, not only to get answers to their questions, but also they feel that they are coming back to there are some kind of a deep root of their existence, of their civilization. The similar feeling, they do not have the similar feeling if they go to some other beautiful place, or they go to the ocean, or to other mountains, or to other forests. You see? So, in that sense, our civilization, it has a huge reservoir of forests full of these very rare trees. And before I sign off with this question, I want to give you another example of why the Himalayas is so special. This is the story that Guruji had heard from his guru, Ramananda Avadut. There was a party, there's a kind of a picnic party about, let's say, 200 years back, 200 years ago. It was during the early days of the British Empire, British leadership, let's say, in India. And they had gone to the Himalayas to, this picnic party was to hunt. That is what picnic was all about. That they set up tents, usually led by some kind of a king or nobleman, a rich person, powerful person. So he's rich, a lot of money. He has an entourage of maybe 50, 60 people with him. So they go out hunting into the forest to find some birds, some animals to kill, to bring, and to have, and to cook, and to food, and to make the food. And there was this Brahmin from Orissa. During those days, most of these cooking was usually done by the Brahmins. Most of this festival cooking, you see, Brahmins are considered to be the right persons to do it, like puja. So this Brahmin was cooking, and this man from Orissa. Now somehow he was cooking with this utensil. He was He was making khichdi, which is a kind of a hodgepodge with rice and dal. Somehow he lost that. We say it in Bengali khunti. I don't know exactly the English of that. So he lost that khunti, the longish, you know, metallic stuff, a rod, a kind of a rod, let's say. And then he placed it somewhere, and then he forgot where he had placed it. He could not find it, so he found a branch of a tree lying around. He just washed it and he put that inside instead of that utensil, and started cooking the khichdi. Within seconds, the whole khichdi turned red, completely red. And he was really scared and stunned by this experience. He said, "What is happening?" So he dropped that branch and tried to repair it, but to no avail. So he thought, maybe nobody will eat this, he thought. So let me eat as much as I can. And again cook the khichdi before others come. So he ate that bit of khichdi and started cooking again for the others with a normal rod again. So anyway, these people came back and they had their food. And by this time, this Brahmin from Orissa had a very high fever. He was almost unable to talk or to do any work. So the people, the king and his people gave him medicines, did some treatment to no avail. And the night passed. In the morning, he was still almost unconscious in that fever, very high fever. So the local tribal people in the tribal villages, they assured the king and his men that, "Don't worry, we will take care of him. You go back home. Because all of you are waiting because of this one man. Just pack your tents and go back home. We will take care of him. And after he recovers, we'll send him back home." So they were rest assured and they went back. But this man, after he got better, after he recovered, he never went back. He stayed with those tribals. After many years, these people wondered what had happened to him. Maybe he had died. And when they tried to find him, they found this man from Orissa, even after all these years, had not aged at all. In fact, he seems younger. And he had got married and has children. But he was much younger. He looked full of life. At that time he had fallen sick, he was middle-aged. How did this happen? Immediately the word got around. And people, we are always looking for this, this nectar of eternal life. So people started flocking to the forest, to the areas nearby, looking for the tree, trying to experiment with all these branches and figs, but to no avail. Even today, the story remains, and the story is true. This man from Orissa had lived a very long life. He had outlived his wife and his children even. Had a very long life. So even many sadhus and yogis were looking for this very, very special tree, which has these special qualities. But nobody has been able to find it till date. So these are some of the many, many innumerable mysteries of the Himalayas. As stories, they're beautiful, and also as possibilities, they're endless. So that is why, for us, Himalayas, even if you think about the Indian climate, the whole climate, the whole monsoon, which is the saving grace, the fact that we survive, in fact, first the fact that we have the rivers and the monsoon and the rains, is because of the presence of the Himalayas. Otherwise, the whole eastern belt of the country would have become a desert. Just like on the other side of the Himalayas, the other side is a huge desert. So that is why it is sort of, both in terms of climate, in terms of culture, in terms of philosophy, in terms of people, in terms of history, everything, in terms of sheer physical beauty of those places, in different altitudes. And the way these temples, as you have been seeing in the presentation, the way these temples have been discovered, not really discovered, these sites have been discovered mostly by Shankaracharya, and then temples had been built. The sites had been discovered in the sense that Shankaracharya had realized that these particular places in the Himalayas have some special energy which are beneficial to humanity, for all seekers and devotees and ordinary people. So he had built temples over there and created stories around Shiva or other gods and goddesses, around the epics of Mahabharata, so that people will be attracted. They will come for the temple, but they will also get the benefit of the sublime beauty and the special energy of that place. So it is also good or beneficial also for the spiritual existence or the spiritual well being of the subcontinent, and also as a consequence of the whole planet. So that is why I call the Himalayas the cradle of human civilization, because it is like the starting point and also the end point of the cycle. It contains everything of our quest, not only of our material quest, our material search, or material greed, but of our quest, of a deeper quest of life, for life. So I hope I've been able to give you some kind of a response to this very difficult question.
Yes, Maharaj. We were listening in awe, really. It's hard to speak after this discussion that you told us, but still, the most important points that you said, if you can summarize some of them. First of all, I want to say about the what you said behind this invisible world order. There is another invisible world order. It's like saying the famous Bengali word, Bengali sentence that behind your father there is another father. And really, Himalaya is
Even
internal.
in fact, the point is, even the world order, which we know to be almost satanic and evil character, is being propelled or fueled by this, great and divine world order of Gyanganj. I personally believe that. No, now, not that everybody would have to believe it, but there are many sages and rishis who say that that is true. For
Really,
example,
really.
look in the Garden of Eden, there was this serpent, there was this evil, the Saturn, the Lucifer, in the guise of a serpent there, provoking. But who kept the serpent there? You see, who was the planner of this confrontation between the serpent and Eve and Adam? You see, God Himself. See, in the same way, you can relate to what I'm trying to say.
Yes, and really, what you said, the world is full of gurus, but it's very hard to find the Sadgurus. And those words about the saint who contained lakhs of Ramakrishna inside him, it's like it gives us only an imagination that is hard to believe. And really, and to what you said in the beginning, that India is an old civilization. No matter, it can be the oldest of civilizations, and there have been so many rishis, and they are scientific researchers. They are going to Himalayas and search this query of life. What is life? What is the truth of existence? And then they have imparted such great knowledge to us. So really, Himalaya holds that vibration. Even if when we small people, we people who doesn't understand anything go there in the parts of Himalaya, and even in the most recently when we went to Narmada, and we always feel that there is something that is happening to those areas. In Garhwal Himalayas, there is always a chanting of Shiva going inside us. So all the time there is something. There is a huge energy flow in the Himalayas, and also the Kailas, the Mount Kailas. It's a really a great mystery, and the pristine atmosphere of Himalayas is always there when we always go there. And yes, never when we go to any oceanic place or any other hill, any other hills, we never find that kind of an energy anywhere else. So yes, thank you, Maharaj, for this wonderful satsang, this wonderful discussion. Now I would like
And
to call.
I will also like to say thank you to Molay Banerjee for supplying me with the English word for khunti. It is called stirring rod. Yes, I had forgotten the name. It is a stirring rod. Thank you to Molay for that.
So Devashish, please, if you can come to the platform.
Thank you, Maharaj. And we are indeed very much proud that we got birth in a country where Himalaya is there as a crown. So, if time permits, Maharaj, one small question is there, one small query is there from Piali Datta. Can we raise the query today or we can keep it further?
Yes, you can raise that query. I'll just give a short answer and we can give a longer answer in the
Yes.
next step.
Yes, actually, she is having certain aspiration regarding her career, and she wanted to know that whether she travel all the 51 peaks and dhams to fulfill her religious quest before leaving abroad for her career, or she will do it after completion of her aspirations. So it was
Yes.
her query, and if you can please answer this.
Yes. First of all, let me explain to the audience what are these 51 Shakti Peeth. Uh, the PITHS are special energy centers. We have been talking about energy centers, but this is, you can say, the mother energy. This is the feminine energy, or the female energy, or the mother energy of the whole subcontinent. There are some special centers of these energies. There's a story about Shiva who was carrying the dead body of his wife Sati because he was very upset. Sati had committed suicide in protest against her own father. Let me not go into that story. And Vishnu, in order to stop Shiva from destroying the world, had cut Sati's body into 51 pieces, and each piece had fallen on one little place of the whole huge country, and that had become very special. That had become very sacred. Now, if you see the dots, if anybody traces the dots of these centers, they covered the whole of the subcontinent, right from Jammu and Kashmir to Kanyakumari, right from Balochistan to Bangladesh. All these areas, these 52 or this 51, sorry, these 51 peats or special Shakti centers, energy centers are there. That's for the people who do not know. This is something that, in fact, the all the Shakti worshippers, the Kali worshippers, they are much more familiar with than others. Number one. Number two is, let me also explain that during the early ages, students used to go for their education in Brahmacharya ashram. They used to have their education for 12 years or 10 years, at the end of which the guru used to say, "Oh, okay, your ashram education is complete, but your total education is still incomplete till you complete these visits or pilgrimage to these 51 special sites." So the last stage of this education, or the last stage of this course, 12-year course, was to travel with a stick in the hand and a begging bowl on the other, with nothing else, barefooted, across the subcontinent, alone, without any support, without any friends, to visit these places, because that would be kind of a life transforming experience for that student. It is not only about some going there and looking at the mount, looking at the temples, doing pranam. It's also knowing one's motherland, knowing one's land, knowing one's culture, mother culture, knowing one's civilization through experience and feeling at one with it, in spite of the diversity of languages, customs, food habits, of formalities, of everything. There's a current, there is one cord that binds the whole of this civilization, and that cord is very difficult to point out. It's something that you feel inside, that inherent oneness with everything around. You see, and there's a cultural identity. without experiencing which you are not really complete. All the great teachers in our country have been great travelers, like Sri Ramchandra himself, like Shankaracharya, like Buddha, like Jesus, great travelers, like Vivekananda, like our own Guru Swami Paramananda. Why had they traveled so much? And they are not really traveled as tourists. They have traveled like pilgrims, like they have traveled like a child of in the in the lap of the Divine Mother, completely giving up responsibility to the divine forces, not planning for tonight's dinner, not planning for tomorrow's hotel. Maybe they're staying in a temple. Maybe somebody picks them up from the road and says, "Come and stay with us in the room, in our house." That is how they had spent all these years. That completes education according to that system of education during that time. So that is second thing that I needed to clarify before I come directly to this answer. But one part of the answer, as I think, has been given. If Peli Datta, you are listening, for you it's a religious visit to these places. What I have just said, that these visits to these dhams completes your education. Otherwise, you have no education. Otherwise, you have some degrees, you have some qualifications, you have some skills. You don't have any education. You think these are religious places? No, not at all. These are not religious places. These are experience places to experience. Places to experience your own being, places to experience your own history, places to experience your own family, your own culture. It's like visiting your mother. Each dham is like a mother. You see? So if you have this idea that you have to complete this religious service before you go to America or to some place abroad to complete your other studies, then don't do this religious thing. This is just nonsense. But if you think your education remains incomplete and you remain incomplete without this experience, then do this. It's a very, very spiritual experience, because it teaches you to give up the ego. It teaches you to concentrate on the present. It teaches you to feel the intimacy of the divine in everything that happens to you, in everything that you do. It teaches you how the divinity is always protecting you, is helping you from all different places. Maybe you're really hungry. Maybe if you without food you might die in a few hours. And somebody approaches you with a bowl of food, suddenly, fresh, warm, and it revives you. You realize that it's just not this person, something else is working. These things happen to everybody who travels like this, because you cannot travel when people decide to visit these 51 Shakti Peeths at one go. They do not go like tourists. They do not go from one hotel to another. They are not out to do some sightseeing. They are on the path of self-discovery. So it teaches you a lot of things. It teaches you much more than what would teach you 12 years of meditation or yoga or some other things that you practice, where you have your kitchen, where you have your food, where you have your income, where you have your plannings, your tickets confirmed and everything, and then you are doing. When everything is insecure, when everything is an open end, only then really your ego is tested, you are challenged, and then you know that how there are forces in this life which are much stronger than the forces of your money, than the forces of your degree, than the forces of your career. So we can go for a longer answer to this, but what I mean is that it was an educational endeavor, not a religious practice. Very important to understand that all these gurus who used to bless the brahmacharis and said, visit these 51 temples, 51 special places, for them, they were not trying to impart in their students a religious fervor. They were trying to complete the education of their students. It had nothing to do with the fact that after these 51 temples, he will come back as a Kali worshipper or the Divine Mother worshipper. He will be a changed person. That is what the Guru desired. I hope you understand my point. Now we come back to Argho and Devashish for your final concluding comments.
Thank you, Maharaj. Actually, by this way, we understood that there is no shortcut way to have our spiritual quest. We have to do all the sadhanas. We have to find, we have to really seek for our gurus who will teach us and who will help us to ultimate realization. Now, I will ask Orgo to conclude the session.
Yes, Maharaj, and yes, Devasista. And thank you, Maharaj, for this wonderful answer. It's also for us, also for those people who want to go in expedition and understand this country. Knowing ourselves is also part of this. It's a part of our sadhana. And as Graham Hancock said in this famous web series of Ancient Apocalypse that Maharaj requested us to see, he says that humans all the time they have an amnesia, they forget, and the mass amnesia, it happens to everyone. And we have all forgotten there was a huge high civilization just few centuries before. And when we travel to these parts, these 51 peaks, we start to understand what kind of civilization they're talking about. So, and Maharaj is really beautifully, he told us how to enrich ourselves. So yes, once again, this session was very important, and I hope everyone who is watching this will share these sessions desperately and extensively. And please join us on 21st of this month only, 21st of June. After 15 days, as we said, we will come back here every alternate Wednesday. So please subscribe to this channel and share these sessions to all your friends that doesn't speak the language of Bengali, because Moromia has a huge base in the Bengal area, Bengal circle. But there are many people who have requested Maharaj to say this satsangs in English so that they can also understand. So please let us be the bridge and join them who really wants to understand and know these deep facts of spirituality. So again, once again, thanking Maharaj, I want to conclude this session. And thank you, Maharaj, and thank you, Devasisda. Good night.